First, this evening, let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Brett Karlin leads Master Chorale of South Florida May 31st and June 1st at the Matthew Shepard concert. In a poignant tribute to the enduring memory of Matthew Shepard, the Master Chorale of South Florida is going to proudly present Craig Hella Johnson's Considering Matthew Shepard. It is an incredible June Pride Month tribute from the Master Chorale of South Florida. The artistic director of the Master Chorale of South Florida is Brett Karlin, and he will conduct the event. This evocative and compassionate musical response commemorates the 25th anniversary of the infamous anti-gay hate crime that claimed Shepard's life. The concert is set to take place at the Sunshine Cathedral Center for Performing Arts on May 31st and June 1st. It promises to be an unforgettable experience. The interactive concert will draw upon Matt's own words, interviews with his parents, and newspaper accounts of his tragic murder. The performance weaves together a narrative and story that is both soul-rendering and profoundly cathartic. Importantly, students will be admitted free of charge, ensuring that all members of the community have access to this transformative experience. As part of this season's Concert for a Cause, a portion of the proceeds from ticket sales will be donated to SunServe, a local organization dedicated to providing critical life assistance and mental health services of the most vulnerable members of our South Florida LGBTQ+ community. The Master Chorale of South Florida was founded in 2003, and it is a very prestigious ensemble including 120 singers from Broward, Miami-Dade County, and Palm Beach County. Committed to inspiring diverse audiences, it delivers exceptional choral performances, serving as the voice of South Florida with its transformative power and engaging presence. You want to purchase your tickets for this concert today at the Master Chorale of Master Chorale South Florida.org and join in honoring the spirit of compassion, inclusion, and resilience. We are also very excited that Brett Karlin, the artistic director and conductor of the Master Chorale of South Florida, is an anchor with us this evening at Queer News Tonight. Brett, Matthew Shepard is one of the legacy names of civil rights in our community. It was a rallying cry for us. And when I heard that the chorale was going to do this concert, I thought first, my goodness, am I getting old? It's 25 years already.
Remarkably.
And how honoring it is that the chorale would take on this piece. First off, tell us about the chorale itself. You're a member of the LGBTQ community. It's 120 voices taking on some of the most inspirational music in the world. Tell us about the chorale.
Exactly right. So the Master Chorale of South Florida is a professional symphony chorus. So typically we're performing works that are of epic proportion and very large scale. So these are works typically by Bach and Brahms and Beethoven and Handel, these sorts of big Mozart Requiem, Verdi Requiem pieces. The organization is now in its 21st season, and I've been with the organization for 10 years now, fortunately. And in the last few seasons, we've begun to reevaluate our programming, because most of these symphony choruses or symphony organizations, of course, perform music of iconic classical composers. But it's clear to me now that both in South Florida and in communities around the country and around the world, they want to attend and support concerts that are more than just about the performance of the music. So a couple of seasons ago, we initiated a new annual Concert for a Cause project in which we partner with a non-musical nonprofit, and it sounds a little hokey, but we give voice or raise attention and awareness to the important mission of that nonprofit through the performance of an iconic musical masterwork or a contemporary piece. We partnered with the Stonewall National Museum and Archives, which is located right down here in South Florida in Wilton Manors, of course. We've also partnered with the Southeast Florida chapter of the Alzheimer's Association in a celebration of music's ability to connect with individuals when they've lost the ability to communicate. So now in our third annual Concert for a Cause, cause, we'll be performing Considering Matthew Shepard with all of our 120 singers, and we've engaged a stage director to join us for the very first time in order to tell this story in a sensitive and meaningful way.
You know, it's wonderful. I'm going to ask you about when the Master Chorale is going to be moving to Madonna music, but that's in a couple of minutes. It's interesting to me of the kind of music that the Master Chorale performs, challenging classical music. I'm curious, from the standpoint of you being a member of the community. I understand many of the singers that are associated with the chorale are also members of the community. How is the intersection of the Master Chorale and the LGBTQ plus community, especially in our interest in this kind of music?
Well, it becomes a very special opportunity, I think, for a majority of our members who have a little bit more experience in life in particular, who remember what happened on October 6th in 1998. And I was born in 1986, so I was a young man, but I do remember seeing the news story. I wasn't out yet at that time. But many of our members not only remember this awful, tragic incident, but were themselves in San Francisco, in LA, in New York, and many other communities, a part of candlelight vigils as well. So for individuals to now sing a work that is organized with a prologue, a passion story, and an epilogue that does try to communicate a message of love, that does attempt to communicate a message of clasping hands and moving forward together in love and a celebration of humanity and peace and kindness. It becomes a very cathartic opportunity for myself, as well as many of our LGBTQ plus members of the chorale, to experience music and the performance of music in a uniquely personal way.
That is lovely. I also think it's interesting. The Stonewall Museum, we Hotspots Happening Out has partnered with them, and we are going to do a series starting in Pride Month, but through the entire rest of the year. This is the 55th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, the Stonewall riots at the Stonewall Inn in New York, and we're going to tell the 55 greatest moments since June 28, 1969, and Matthew Shepard's moment makes the list of one of the 55 biggest moments in the LGBT community. For the activism of a choral group that is delivering Brahms, for example, what was the motivation to come in and focus on Matthew Shepard's important, clearly, and it's a concert with a cause. But what gravitated the Master Chorale to a program as deep for LGBT as this?
Initially, it's really the musical setting of this incident and of Matt's story. This was a piece composed by Craig Hella Johnson in 2016. Of course, the composition of this work started a little bit earlier than that, but it is often characterized as what's called a fusion oratorio. An oratorio is a work that is semi-staged or has light staging elements and costume elements, but largely speaking, the music is delivered directly to the audience. And the reason that this is called a fusion oratorio is because there is a wide variety of styles used in the music. So one movement is Southern gospel. The other sounds like a Dolly Parton song. Then you hear Bach, and then you hear lush romantic chords and romantic harmonies. Above all, the music tries to communicate a powerful message of hope, of love, of kindness, and of peace. But it really, the first thing that attracted me to wanting to program this music, introduce members of the South Florida and queer community to this piece, is because it is such an unbelievably gorgeous composition with different poetry set by Craig, the composer of the work, but also by Leslie Newman. Leslie Newman is a poet and author who was slated to give a presentation at the university in Wyoming that Matthew was attending. The attack happened one of the nights that she was supposed to make a presentation. Afterwards, she published this collection of works where there is an anthropomorphizing of the fence that Matthew was tragically tied to. And in this oratorio...
It was a barbed wire fence, by
yes.
the way.
And in this oratorio, considering Matthew Shepard, there are different moments that are essentially monologues from the perspective of the fence. And so we have first the fence before. Next, the fence that night. The fence that night is the most emotional movement of the piece, where the fence, this speaker, this baritone singer, speaks of holding him all night. And then eventually the fence the day after, the fence 1 week later, as individuals come and leave ribbons and leave pictures and leave candles and things like that. So this is an extraordinarily powerful piece that uses metaphor, exquisitely beautiful poetry, but above all else, this hopeful, intrinsic feeling throughout the music that amidst this tragedy, this is a story that must be told, and this is a story that must be remembered so that we avoid or never repeat these tragic acts of violence again.
Well, I'm really glad you mentioned Leslie. Most people may remember her as the person who wrote Heather Has Two Mommies. That's like her famous kids book. And as a poet myself, I admired the way that Craig Hella Johnson not only incorporated Leslie Newman, but also poet Michael Dennis Brown into considering Matthew Shepard. It's quite amazing. I've listened to it on YouTube. I've listened to some of the stuff, and it's very moving, and it is important to remember this event. Absolutely.
Did you? I'm curious for the Master Chorale to bring a subject like this. It launches June Pride Month. The performance is a Friday and Saturday night. Friday night, May 31st, and then Saturday night, June 1st. I imagine that was very intentional.
Yes, absolutely, of course.
And what was behind that decision?
Well, I'll share with you, I guess, personally, not in my role as artistic director and conductor of the Master Chorale. I'm a nerd. I'm a homebody. I'm more comfortable at like a board game cafe than I am at the club or at a bar and that sort of thing. So when there is a Pride Month celebration, I am generally not in attendance at large pool parties and clubs. Not to say that they're bad. There's different strokes for different folks. They're absolutely fun events and engaging events. But for me, I found this to be a cultural exploration of an important yet tragic event that allows us to acknowledge during Pride Month not only a celebration of our identity, not only a celebration of our culture, but also a reflection, an introspection and celebration of a cultural work that allows us to remember a story that we can tell each other to avoid this ever happening again.
You go ahead.
I have to say though, if the show is half as good, if your conducting is half as good as the way you speak, and sign me up. I want to be there. I mean, it's beautiful the way you've. I cannot remember the exact name of the show, but I saw a play about Matthew Shepard. I can't remember.
Probably the Laramie Project.
Yeah, the Laramie
Yes,
Project.
most definitely.
It was right on the tip of my
Extraordinary
tongue.
work.
It was
Yes.
an incredible show.
Yes.
I was probably around. I was born in '80, so that was my high school years when that was happening. The end of my high school years. So, you explain it so eloquently, and I'm sure you can say it even better.
And as much as we love the Laramie Project, imagine the news and poetry, and then 120 voices.
Yeah,
most definitely.
It's just going to be absolutely incredible. We want to. I'm giving production a heads up. We're going to show something from the Chorale in just a moment. But one last thing that I wanted to focus on is the tie-in with SunServe. SunServe is a beloved organization here in South Florida, and what they do in varieties of different areas for LGBT and health and women and trans. But one of their big emphasis is for youth.
Correct.
And no time since Matthew Shepard's murder in 1999 have we seen LGBT children attacked in America in the degree that we are watching. Tell us a little bit about that and the decision to say, well, if you're a student, just come to the Chorale.
Well, as part of Master Chorale's annual Concert for a Cause program and initiative, we decided that it made the most sense for us to partner with a non-musical nonprofit for considering Matthew Shepard, like SunServe, that has an extraordinary youth services program. And it just so happened that I maintain a personal friendship, with the director of the youth services program, Mario DePedro.
Oh, sure.
So as I was talking to him a little bit about this musical project, the partnership sort of formed naturally as we started to have some conversations. So 10% of all of the ticket proceeds that Master Chorale earns will go directly to help support and fund the youth programs that SunServe provides, which includes free mental health counseling, safe space, including a queer prom and other queer events where individuals from the LGBTQ plus community can feel at home, can feel comfortable, can feel safe, as well as housing for LGBTQ plus youth if they find themselves in a situation where, of course, they are in need. So this partnership seemed like a beautiful celebration of, unfortunately, a very tragic and very ugly legacy or tragic event. But we're hoping that we can bring some sort of beauty out of it. Yeah. We're hoping that we can bring some sort of hope and some sort of guidance for individuals now.
It's really a beautiful story. And when you think about the intersections that are here, we're broadcasting at the Happening Out Studios at Sunshine Cathedral. It just happens that SunServe's student and youth program is right above.
Yes, of course.
Right now here at Sunshine. I have been to the graduation party that SunServe does in the parking lot here at SunServe. And in the times that I've been upstairs and the times I've been into the parking lot events, I never dreamed that there would be a connection with such an artistic, amazing artistic event as the Master Chorale of South Florida, all intersecting together over considering Matthew Shepard. It's just an amazing event that you don't want to miss. And before we leave the story, we want to give an opportunity to, I don't know who this guy is that's talking, but watch this.
20th anniversary season, the Master Chorale is already looking forward to the next 20 years of music making and performing the world's greatest choral orchestral masterworks ever written, commissioning new pieces by leading composers, and expanding access to music education through our free family concert series. Art does not exist in this country without philanthropy. So if you're interested in making a meaningful investment in strengthening the cultural fabric of your community, I encourage you to join me in making a donation to the Master Chorale today. Thank you again for your support over the last 20 years.